That's why this Joshua knockout hits harder, because it proves the ceiling was always fake and the danger was always real. And once that truth leaks out, you can't reseal it no matter how many statements get rewritten. The moment Joshua dropped Paul in round 5, the timeline fractured because suddenly every past fight got re-examined under a harsher light, and I swear you could feel viewers mentally rewinding to that Tyson bout, asking the same forbidden question at the same time. Why didn't he do this? Why didn't he pull the trigger? Why did this feel different? And once those questions start looping, they don't stop.
Sit down on a podcast one time, and he talked about it. He said, I don't want to do an exhibition against Floyd Mayweather. He said, I'm only doing real fights. And of course, I can't get up high in weight, but I'll fight for the real fight at the weight that I'm at. But Jake Paul, I mean, as of right now, for what he's doing, it's good for what he's doing. But once he fights a real fighter, it's going to be bad.
People keep calling this a mismatch, but that's too clean a word for what happened, because this was exposure. This was gravity reasserting itself after years of suspension, and Joshua didn't rush it. He hunted it, which is what makes it terrifying, because when a real fighter takes his time, it means he knows the ending already, and Jake felt that knowledge pressing in on him round by round. Then the 6th round landed like a verdict, and I don't mean the punch, I mean the meaning, because that right hand didn't just break a jaw, it broke permission for this experiment to keep pretending it was boxing. Once titanium plates enter the conversation, the jokes die instantly. Anyone still laughing is either numb or lying. What chills me is Eddie Hearn's line about giving Jake his debut and AJ giving him his last fight, because that wasn't trash talk, that was a closing statement. And promoters don't talk like that unless they believe the door is actually shut. And if you think Jake didn't hear that echoing in his head while staring at hospital lights, you're missing the psychological damage entirely.
Eddie, I want to follow with you, because when this fight was first announced, you had said something to the effect of this would end Jake Paul's career. After what you saw tonight, do you think that Jake should continue to box, or what do you think the future holds?
Yeah, no, I really take my hat off. So, I mean, we have to see if it is a broken jaw. Those injuries are very difficult to come back from. But as AJ said, like that last shot would have knocked out a lot of heavyweights. And I know he went down heavy, but you know he was conscious on the floor. And I thought his game plan, although obviously very negative early on, which it had to be, was smart at times. And there were times when he held his feet and let his hands go. You know, it was a very one-sided fight. It was always going to be.
Watching Joshua tear it apart forces a brutal comparison, because one man stuck to the script and another ripped it up, and history only remembers one of those choices, no matter how big the check was. I don't care how many people call this conspiracy, because Tyson himself cracked the door open when he admitted he doesn't even remember the fight and woke up asking why he did it, because that's not the voice of a man satisfied with the performance. That's the voice of someone who knows he left something sacred on the table, and that kind of regret gets louder with time, not quieter. Let me say this slowly, because it matters. Joshua didn't need to say anything after the fight, because his fist said it all, and silence backed it up. And when silence becomes the loudest voice in the room, it means the truth is too obvious to spin, and every influencer fighter watching right now just felt their stomach drop, whether they admit it or not.
Are you in pain?
Yeah, but it's not from like talking.
Talk to me about what your jaw feels like, because you got
It's like a baseball in there.
two
then
plates?
It just feels like
4 titanium plates.
4 titanium plates. How many do you have?
Just 1.
There's a darker twist here that nobody wants to pull yet, because it threatens the whole business model. If one real heavyweight can undo years of hype in 6 rounds, then how fragile was this ecosystem the entire time? And if you're uncomfortable with that question, good you should be, because someone is absolutely scrambling behind the scenes right now to contain what this means.
Oh no, I don't remember the fight that much. I kind of blanked out a little. Listen, know what I remember? Coming back from the first round. Then the next thing I remember, Jake is doing some kind of, I don't know, what was he doing at the ring?
Oh, yeah, little bow at the end. He bowed.
And that's the last thing I remember. You know, but the day after the fight, right after the day after, I woke up and told my wife, why did I do that? I don't know. I just don't know what the hell goes on.
What did you think of Jake's power, man, when you were in there?
keep thinking about Tyson watching that Broken Jaw news hit because biology doesn't lie and marketing can't argue with bone fractures. And seeing physical proof of what a real punch does forces you to confront every moment you chose not to throw one. And nah, this can't be real. Unless regret is already eating at him way harder than he's letting on. Here's a time bomb thought you shouldn't ignore. If Tyson is now openly admitting that money dictated outcomes, then how many other fights are about to get relitigated in the public mind? Because once trust erodes, it spreads fast, and boxing has always survived on belief, and belief is bleeding out right now. Another thing that won't leave me alone is how calm Joshua looked the entire time, because calm fighters are the most dangerous and the most honest, and his calm felt like someone executing a correction, not chasing glory, and corrections don't stop at one target, they ripple outward. So ask yourself who feels exposed next.
Just hoping after this Floyd fight, maybe we can have a rematch. He did well, but I want to try it again.
Is that something that you would be interested in terms of righting the wrong and knocking him
I
out?
would be interested. Yes, I would. I would be interested.
This doesn't end with a knockout highlight or a press quote because the silence afterward feels staged, and when things go quiet, this suddenly, it usually means deals are being rewritten and stories are being buried, and I don't trust it not for a second because this situation is still unfolding and something uglier is absolutely coming, and when it breaks, it's going to make this knockout look like the warning shot. What keeps looping in my head is how inevitable this all felt in hindsight, like the sport itself finally got tired of pretending and decided to snap the rubber band back into place. Because for years, the line between spectacle and competition was stretched so far it was begging to break, and Joshua just happened to be the guy standing there when it finally did. I keep thinking about how confidence turns into arrogance without anyone noticing the exact moment it crosses over, because that's what doomed this whole thing. Not the ambition, not the money, but the belief that reality could be negotiated if you talked loud enough and built a big enough audience around you. There's something deeply unsettling about watching a narrative collapse in real time, because it exposes how much of what we consume as fans is trust-based, and once that trust cracks, you start questioning everything retroactively, like how many moments you cheered for were real, and how many were carefully padded edges to protect an outcome. Joshua didn't just win a fight, he reintroduced consequences, and that's the part people aren't fully processing yet, because consequences don't trend well, but they linger, and they sit with fighters long after the cameras are gone and the tweets stop flying. I can't shake the image of preparation versus promotion, because one of those happens in silence and the other needs noise to survive, and when they finally collide, the silence always wins, not dramatically, not loudly, just decisively, like gravity reminding you it was never impressed by hype. What really bothers me is how normalized it became to frame real fighters as obstacles in a storyline instead of human beings with decades of experience and damage baked into their instincts, because once you reduce them to plot devices, you forget they can end your night with one clean decision. There's also a strange sadness in realizing that even legends aren't immune to the system, that even someone like Tyson can be pulled into the gravity of spectacle and money, because it shows how powerful the machinery has become and how hard it is to step outside it once you're inside. I don't think people fully grasp how rare it is to see a moment that rewrites the emotional hierarchy of a sport, where suddenly the loudest voices go quiet and the quiet professionals are the only ones left standing with credibility intact. Every replay of that knockout feels heavier than the last, not because of the punch itself, but because of what it represents. A hard line drawn between levels, a reminder that experience isn't just time served, but damage endured and lessons learned the painful way. There's an irony in how the pursuit of legitimacy ended up accelerating the loss of illusion, because chasing real competition means eventually meeting it, and real competition doesn't care about branding, optics, or whether the moment is convenient. I keep wondering how many fighters watched that bout and felt two opposite emotions at once: relief that the sport defended itself, and fear that the same spotlight could turn on them if they ever misjudged the gap between confidence and competence. The fallout matters more than the fight, because Fallout is where careers pivot, where managers reassess, where matchmaking philosophies change, and where fans recalibrate what they're willing to believe the next time a big promise gets made. There's also a lesson here about patience, because Joshua didn't rush to prove anything. He waited for the opening that was always going to come, and that patience is something you only learn after years of being punished for impatience. What makes this linger is that it didn't feel cruel or excessive, it felt surgical, which somehow makes it more damning, because there was no chaos to hide behind, just a methodical dismantling that left nowhere to point the blame but inward. I think the sport needed this moment, even if it didn't want it, because without periodic reality checks, boxing was drifting too far into theater, and theater without risk eventually becomes empty, no matter how flashy the lights are. There's a quiet reckoning happening now, not just for one fighter, but for an entire approach to selling fights, because audiences may still love spectacle, but they just got reminded how much they respect authenticity when it finally shows up. I can't help but feel that this will change how crossover is talked about going forward, because crossover implies mutual respect between disciplines, not one side borrowing credibility without fully earning it. The psychological damage might outlast the physical injury, because once doubt creeps in at this level, it doesn't leave easily, and doubt is the one opponent you can't train away with conditioning or money. What stays with me most is how fast admiration turns into scrutiny when the shield drops, because the same crowd that buys into the dream will dissect it mercilessly once it fails. And that swing is brutal if you're not prepared for it. There's no clean ending here, no moral bow to tie it up, just a sense that something shifted and hasn't settled yet, like tectonic plates after an earthquake where the aftershocks are still coming. And the most unsettling part is knowing this isn't the final chapter, because once a sport exposes a fault line this clearly, the next moment it breaks through could be even louder, even messier, and far less forgiving than the last.
Sentient life form approaches.
But let's assume for a moment you're right, and that all these Egyptians. Amid all of that, she joins me now for her first interview since the meeting with Erica Kirk. Candice Owens, welcome back to Uncensored.
It's good to be with you at the end of another year.
Yes, and what a year it's been, not least for you. It's fair to say your fame continues to rise, infamy some would put it, but you're always a welcome guest on Uncensored. Let's get to this extraordinary meeting that you had with Erica Kirk. It came right after we saw her say in that CBS town hall, you should stop with the conspiracy theories. So who approached who about you guys actually getting together?
I was approached by Turning Point after Blake Knapp, who works on Charlie's show, sort of fumbled this invite. I'd almost say it was a fake invite publicly, and then in the middle of the night said, oh, Candice is not able to be here tomorrow. They never messaged me, and I think there was quite a bit of public backlash with how they went about it, just not the way that we try to set meetings. And so what happened after was they reached out to me, said Erica agreed to do a live stream, just the two of us. And then after Erica's PR blitz, they reached out again and said that they felt that it was better for us to meet one-on-one as opposed to us sitting down having Megyn Kelly moderate, which was the idea originally.
Right. And so where did you have your summit meeting?
At a hotel here in Nashville.
And a lot of your, as you know, a lot of your supporters, fans of your show, think that you may have been lured into a trap. Did anything while you were there make you think you were being lured into a trap?
I don't know that a lot of my fans think that I was being lured into a trap. I think ahead of time they had some concerns, obviously, because I think in general, after you see a public assassination and you start tracking so many lies that are happening, there's going to be an understandable amount of angst that people feel. And I certainly felt the angst as well. I've obviously been very clear that I am suspicious of some of the characters that are at Turning Point USA, so I totally understand why the public was concerned.
When you saw Erica, she was obviously angry about you in that CBS town hall. What was her demeanor like when you met her?
Well, I don't think that she thought she was angry in that. I think maybe that was the characterization from the public. I certainly thought she was angry as well, and she sort of clarified that she was a bit annoyed by the questioning, the way in which Barry had set up the question with the podcaster Candice Owens, which I think was definitely being driven more by Barry Weiss's feelings towards me, long-running feelings towards me, than it was perhaps for the benefit of CBS and trying to pretend to be an impartial journalist. So I think she was frustrated by the line of questioning, is what she explained to me.
So how would you categorize the 4.5 hours? If you were looking at it in totality, what was the tone of the conversation? What do you think you both got out of it?
Well, for me, answers to the questions of trying to understand why there were so many Turning Point lies, and why instead of people acknowledging that these are lies, I felt that there was this billion-dollar psychological operation to convince people that Candice is just crazy. These aren't lies. These are made up. And so I was very refreshed that they owned up to the lies. That was a great first step. And I think, you know, what motivates that? Maybe because despite having what I would assume to be the best PR agents and crisis PR agents in the world, we're moving toward a different world where people don't really care, you know, if you are friends with the people at, what is it, WME and CAA and what they can do for you. That sort of power is ineffectual in this day and age. And so I think they recognize that, and that the public simply doesn't believe the story that they've been fed, and the psychological operation to convince us not to believe our own eyes or to trust our common sense instincts has failed. Okay, and I think on their end, they got more clarity on how I figured out certain things, more clarity on why I am convinced that there are people that are inside of Turning Point that are dirty. And I was able to share more with them off record, and I think that they got more clarity in exchange.
Before we get into some of the sort of specifics, is there not a danger here? I've already seen it in some of the reaction from people that follow your show. Is there not a danger that in seeking to be the one that exposes the truth, And I don't know the truth about what happened to Charlie Kirk. I work on the assumption that this lone, twisted, weirdo Tyler Robinson killed him for whatever reason, and I suspect personally that is how this will play out. However, I have an open mind in the sense that we still don't really know what happened with President Kennedy's assassination. I found the attempted assassination of Donald Trump very odd in the way that that's been handled by the authorities and so on. I'm not naive. As a journalist of 40 years, I'm not naive enough to say every single thing you've been saying is obviously baloney, because I don't know. And we'll get to some of the more specific details. But is there not a danger, Candice, that by having a 4.5-hour private meeting, rather than doing it in public, that all you're really going to do, collectively actually, you and Erica Kirk, is fuel the conspiracy theories about what you may or may not have discussed in that meeting, what part of the stuff that you've been broadcasting on your show she agrees with and doesn't agree with, and so on. Is there not a danger that this is the least transparent way of going about trying to get solutions here?
Well, I'm a very transparent person, so my preference was to do it publicly, but I took the offer, obviously, to have any conversation, because if I hadn't done that, then I think everything I've been doing would have appeared disingenuous. Like, oh, Candice is pretending that she wants answers to her questions, but when she got this offer, she suddenly said she didn't want to go because it wasn't public. They would have felt like I was moving the goalpost. So I was willing to take anything. And from their viewpoint, they felt like after the CBS News and the Fox News hits that Erica did, it was, my understanding was that they felt that it was a good idea to bring the temperature down first by having us sit down and communicate. And that doesn't mean that they necessarily say, oh, well, that's it, now we're not going to have any other public discussion. I'm hopeful they will. I think they should. I totally agree with you. More transparency, the better.
Who else was in the meeting? Erica was there. Who else was there?
Justin Strife, who is the COO of Turning Point USA, and my husband was only there for a portion of it, and my cousin.
So there were no lawyers, for example?
No lawyers. But they did phone their lawyer because I asked the question. I was like, look, I'm open to being wrong, obviously. If there is something, which I think the media was kind of hinting at, that they had more but they couldn't share it with the public, I said, I'm happy to keep my mouth shut, and I want to feel good walking out of here that there is something there. There is some sort of a smoking gun, and I will tell viewers just to be patient. And so they did call one of the lawyers working on this case, and it was not convincing at all. He said, in effect, all we have is what the public has seen, and we won't know more because we're investigating and looking for more. And so that just made me go, why is everybody being so over the top and ridiculous and using words like the evidence is overwhelming, it was Tyler Robinson, when they don't have anything that's overwhelming to show that it's, they don't have a video of him taking the shot, which I think was something that I assumed, like, okay, there's all these cameras, maybe they actually have that video and they're waiting for a moment to release that to the public. They don't have that. Or at least I can say Erica's side has not seen that, and the lawyer communicated to me that they would not have access to that until earliest would be May, that right now they're just investigating, just like we're doing back at home.
Okay, you said that your motive for going to the meeting was that you would be able to come out and tell the world Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. So are you in a position to say that? Do you believe as a consequence of your 4.5 hours? Do you believe that it is now most likely that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk?
Absolutely not. I haven't seen one piece of compelling evidence that Tyler Robinson scaled the rooftops like Spider-Man on a college campus that he didn't go to, and fired one shot, a magic bullet shot, and killed Charlie Kirk. I have not seen one piece of compelling evidence. In fact, I've seen more compelling evidence to the contrary.
You've seen their vibrant ads illuminating billboards and train stations for many years. Now it's time you actually saw the show. Shen Yun is celebrating its 20th anniversary, a dazzling run which has seen iconic performances at iconic venues at the Kennedy Center, the London Coliseum and the Sydney Opera House. Each season tours to more than 200 cities worldwide. You'll see classical Chinese dance, a live orchestra, and stunning animated backdrops which bring to life 5,000 years of Chinese civilization. World-class performers in flawless costumes tell a story of myths, legends, warriors, and heavenly realms, all set to stunning music. It's been described as inspiring, uplifting, and life-affirming. And if you're looking for an unforgettable gift for your family, I really recommend that you check it out. Visit shenyun.com/peers to waive all ticketing fees when you order. That's shenyun.com/peers. Who does Erica think killed her husband?
Well, I think that in her recent PR blitz, she sort of communicated that she trusted her team, and her lawyer was using kind of the same rhetoric that the media has been using, where, you know, there's really, this is like, you know, it's overwhelming. Maybe he didn't say the word overwhelming, but he was like, it's very clear, I think is what he said in particular. And then I pushed back and I said, what's clear? The affidavit? That's all you guys have? And I did tell him, if you would never be my lawyer, because it's just, you know, a lawyer that's just kind of giving you adjectives, and I don't need a cheerleader. I need someone to be practical and to say, we don't have anything yet. I think the communication should be, we are hopeful that throughout this investigation, we are going to uncover more evidence that links Tyler Robinson to this crime. I do feel confident that he was involved in some capacity on that day. As I have said many times on my show, I was the one who broke the story that he was at the Dairy Queen throwing out clothes, a local Dairy Queen, throwing out clothes in a nearby cemetery. And so I do think he was involved, and multiple people were involved that day, and I think he did pick up clothes. I had communication with Lance's family. I had communication with Tyler Robinson's family. And for some reason, Lance is being protected, which I find to be very strange. His own family thinks he's guilty of more, and they find it weird that the feds kind of glossed over him, almost as though he was a Fed operative, like he was working on behalf of them. And you know, we've caught the feds have lied a lot. It's just a fact. Turning Point USA people have lied a lot. That is a fact, which they have agreed to. They said that these were mistakes, but they, you know, whether a mistake or not, the public was lied to. So this obviously, you know, matters deeply to me, and it's just absurd that people would think that I'm doing this for clicks. I know Charlie. I knew Charlie. Charlie and I are very close, and it has been one of the most disgusting things ever that people first and foremost tried to start this psychological operation that Charlie and I hadn't spoken since 2019. They've lied about virtually everything that I've said on my podcast. I'm not gonna let this go, okay? We don't live in a country that is the embodiment of democratic principles if Charlie Kirk gets publicly executed and the media apparatus is doing everything they can to cover the tracks. I would say to cover the tracks by demanding that there is no further inquiry into what happened on that day.
Right,
that is not a country that we get behind.
Let's get some of the details, because it seems to me you've put up a lot of theories, but a lot of them don't seem to have a clear conclusion from you about what you actually think happened. I mean, you've been all over this now ever since Charlie was killed. What do you believe happened to him? Who do you think killed him?
So I can't tell you definitively who pulled the trigger. I'm not going to lie to audience and just put something out there that's not real. But what I can say is I feel convinced that the feds were involved. I can tell you that. I think the feds were involved in staging a cover-up. I think Kash Patel knows what happened and did not happen on that day. I am convinced by me being told by people that are feds that he is not acting right and that he is not wanting to share any information. Just a couple of people are allowed to even see anything. A Fed told me that they can't even touch the Charlie Kirk file without risk of being fired, and that he's grown increasingly mad. The U.S. Marshals that were there when they were doing the quote-unquote manhunt for 33 hours said that Kash Patel effectively sent them on a wild goose chase, which is what was signaled to the public when he said, we got him, and it was actually the wrong person. And so it caused people to stop looking because they were convinced they had the shooter. They felt that that was in order to allow the real perpetrators of the crimes to get away.
But that could just be the fog of the immediacy of these things. We've seen it at Brown University, exactly the same thing. They thought they had the killer. They thought they had the killer. It turned out to be the wrong person. Right? It doesn't mean there's any great conspiracy by the feds to cover anything up. And again, even if what you're saying is true, I don't know. Maybe you're right. If what you're saying is true, what is it they're covering up? You've so far intimated or inferred something weird involving Egyptian planes. So, What's that about? You've inferred perhaps Israeli involvement in some way. You've certainly inferred a lot of Turning Point USA involvement. That's a lot of people getting involved here in the murder of Charlie Kirk potentially. But what I'm really curious about is, given you've been all over all this and you've been airing all these theories, well, which one is it? It can't be all of these things. Is it somebody?
Well, of course
is it someone at Turning Point USA? I mean, who do you actually believe was behind this?
Of course, it can be all of those things. And what's really ironic here is that there's a clip of Charlie in the last months leading up to his death where he speaks about the JFK assassination. And he says that multiple countries were involved, multiple people were involved, the LBJ was involved, the feds were involved. And he's correct. That is what it means. When there is a conspiracy, there are multiple people that are involved. Of course, there's not one person on a grassy knoll who shot JFK.
Well, it might have been that.
There are people who had to agree to it. There had people who would have had to. The Dallas police were involved.
Candace,
I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question.
But my point
is, why aren't you just going to point to one person? That to me, even that seems like a part of telling people not to believe their own gut. Obviously, for this to have been pulled off, there had to have been multiple people involved. There had to have been people at Turning Point that were complicit in having this happen. Now, who knows what their motivations are? Doesn't mean maybe this person's like, hey, I'm going to help you.
Hang on. Okay, let me stop you. Hang on. When you say obviously somebody at Turning Point, you are accusing right now people that worked with Charlie Kirk at the company he built, which is now run by his widow. You are directly accusing people in that company of being complicit in his murder, right?
I want to just be very clear connecting that dot. So I said that when there is a conspiracy, of course there are going to be multiple people involved. So applying that same logic to JFK, right? Knowing, as I do and as Charlie did, believe that LBJ was involved, which then implicates the feds as having been involved, which then implicates the Dallas police station as being involved. I believe Israel was obviously involved, that they were the ones that wanted him dead for saying that what is now AIPAC should have to register under FARA. So there's motive. There are people that have to be involved on the ground that day. There are people that have to be willing to allow the perpetrators to get away. There has to be media that's complicit, and that's what literally Operation Mockingbird was. It was established.
But you know the problem? Candace, here's the problem.
Well, hang on.
It
was established.
Yeah, but here's the problem with everything you're saying.
In this massive cover-up.
You keep saying, and this is where people think you're prone to endless conspiracy theories for whatever reason, is you keep using the phrase, they have to have been involved. So by that yardstick, what you're saying is, with JFK's assassination, and we recently had a lot of the files released, which did not conclusively prove any of these things, right? Now, again, I don't know what happened to JFK, but the one possibility you've not ruled in is it was just as simple as Lee Harvey Oswald. It might have been. We don't know, right? So when you say the media has to have been involved, Lyndon Johnson has to have been. But my problem is you're stating all these things as facts.
We can't do 63. It's such a nonsense to say that it was Lee Harvey Oswald acting.
You don't know that.
That's just such a nonsense. I do know it was not Lee Harvey Oswald acting by himself, and then that required national security to lock down the files, and that required the feds to impart, the CIA to impart Operation Mockingbird to convince the public that it was, you can't go against, there's a grieving widow, don't look further into it, don't believe your own eyes.
But let me just say, this is your, Candace,
it was a grand conspiracy that killed JFK. I am going to say that confidently. And I just think we have to grow up. We have to grow up. We can't keep pretending Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK. We can't keep doing that.
That is your opinion. Today's show is sponsored by Oxford Natural, makers of the Optimum Day and Optimum Night all-natural supplements. Thousands of Brits and Americans are already taking them with incredible results. Optimum Day boosts your energy and supports weight loss throughout the day. Optimum Night helps you relax and get deep, refreshing sleep. They have countless success stories, including from some very familiar faces. England legend Michael Owen, who lost 400 pounds. AFTV's Robbie, who lost more than 100 pounds. To watch their full stories and many more, scan the QR code on your screen or visit oxfordnatural.com/peers. And here's the best part. Use the code PEERS and get 70% off your first order. Yes, 70% off with the code PEERS. It's an opinion.
No, that's a fact.
No, it's not a fact.
It's a fact.
It's not a fact.
It's a fact.
The whole reason there are still conspiracy theories about JFK's assassination is none of this is a fact. You are floating it as your theory.
Because the feds are never going to admit to their own crimes. That is the reason we're still discussing it.
That may be the case, but you can't prove that.
Yeah, well, I can prove common sense that Lee Harvey Oswald did not stand on a
But you
grassy
admit it's your
knoll
opinion.
and assassinate a president. And
Okay.
LBJ, like Charlie says in that clip, which people should go pursue.
Yes, I know Charlie
all
said
of the
that.
weird things that happened that day that were unusual, and LBJ
All right, but let's
decided
get
not
back
to
to
ride that
all right,
day.
let's get
and then
back to-
suddenly he reversed course on all
Okay,
of JFK's
let's
policies,
move off
and
from
he was fighting
JFK.
AIPAC. Israel killed JFK.
All right.
Now, going back to your point about Turning Point USA
Yes.
and the ridiculous idea that implicating, this is a $100 million organization.
Yeah.
Common sense. If this was not even a high-profile political assassination, and this was just a guy who worked at a company that was $100 million, right? Common sense inquiry is, was there a financial motive for this person to be dead, okay? This is like Sherlock Holmes 101, and this is what I mean when I say that the public no longer trusts the media because you're acting us to be stupid, and we don't want to do that. We actually don't want to pretend that we're clinical idiots who can't assess things and go, oh, there could be a massive motive here to have Charlie dead, especially when it seems very strange that Bibi Netanyahu, when nobody even had a clue of what happened, this guy's doing the rounds on Fox News and saying, I didn't kill Charlie Kirk. That's kind of weird. Did you feel compelled to jump on to Piers Morgan's show and say, just so everybody knows, I didn't kill Charlie Kirk? Why would he say
Right,
that?
so I
Why
wanna-
was he so
I-
involved
but
as somebody who's
Candace,
fighting
I
a
wanna get-
97,000 front war?
Candace, I want to get to the reality of what you're actually saying. So when you say that somebody at Turning Point USA, Charlie's company, was complicit in his murder, who? Who was?
I believe that there were multiple people at Turning Point who are, as I have said many times, my exact words are, they are engaged in a cover-up of what happened to Charlie on that day.
No, but who
I've
was
been
involved
very-
in his murder?
I didn't say that they murdered Charlie.
You said
My
that
show,
people
I've
at
been very
Turning
clear.
Point were complicit in his murder.
No, my exact sentence that I said was that there were people at Turning Point who are engaged in a cover-up.
No, you
I
didn't.
believe
Sorry,
that
you didn't.
thoroughly.
Candice, you didn't say that. You said literally.
I did say that
they
on
were,
my entire
You said
show.
there were people at Turning Point complicit in
No.
his murder.
Okay.
That's what you said.
When you and I were discussing, that's why I said, let's go back. I was applying the logic of a conspiracy to JFK. I said, okay, if JFK, you have people that are complicit. Of course,
Let's
if you
forget
apply that
JFK.
logic, if there
Let's
is a
forget
conspiracy,
JFK.
there's going to be multiple people that are going to be complicit by the time, in order for a large stage murder to
You
happen. So I was
specifically
using
said,
an
you didn't say
analogy of
complicit
JFK.
in a cover-up. You said complicit
Okay,
in the murder. Because I said who
I'm-
at Turning Point
let
was
me
involved
clarify for you.
in his murder. And
Let
you
me
said,
clarify for you. Okay, you can keep saying what I said, or you can listen to what I am saying.
Okay.
When I was using the analogy of JFK and we were connecting it, I was basically pushing back on you because you were suggesting that, you know, all of these people being involved would be crazy. So I was applying the
No, I
analogy
said I
of what
don't
happened to JFK. Well, you actually, if you go back,
I said I don't know.
suggesting that.
I said you don't know either. You're floating theories.
When we started
which are
talking about
you're
the JFK
perfectly
thing,
entitled to. Let me
no,
make it clear.
Piers, I really think you're not holding on to your thoughts.
Candice, let me,
correctly. Okay,
let me explain out my thought very clearly.
When we started talking
Let
about
me
JFK,
explain, hang
the
on,
implication
Candice,
that you
hang
were
on.
making
Let me
was that it
explain
was
my thought to
crazy
you.
to suggest that multiple
Let me
people
explain
could
my
have been
thought
involved
to
in
you.
different levels.
Candice.
I was then connecting the dots and saying that
Okay.
in order for the JFK assassination to happen, there had to have been some people that were complicit,
I understand.
right?
I heard what you
Maybe
said.
you're the person who takes the cameras down. Maybe you're the
I
person
understand
that
what you're
told him
saying,
to drive that
Candice.
day. Maybe you're LBJ. So they're not all complicit in the murder,
Right.
but they're all at different varying stages involved in the cover-up.
Okay.
Right? So that's what a grand conspiracy actually is.
Okay.
And I do believe, so you don't have to go back and we don't have to go through it. I'm telling you what I think about Turning Point. You know, I am very known for being honest about what I believe. You're not, I'm not exactly a person that you got to pull teeth on.
Sure.
I believe that there are people at Turning Point who are engaged in covering up what happened on that day.
But were
I
any
have
of them
named-
engaged in the planning of the murder of Charlie Kirk?
I wouldn't know how it was planned. Absolutely, I can't make that. I cannot confidently make that statement. I can say confidently that I know they're engaged in the cover-up because I've been investigating what happened on that day and what transpired thereafter. I've been clear. I've named those people on my show. I've said they are engaged in a cover-up, and I've listed the lies. So you don't have to try to make something out of what I didn't say. I tell you what I think. It's already controversial. We don't need to get more controversial, okay? Do I think someone at Turning Point pulled the trigger? No. Obviously, I don't think someone at Turning
Do you
Point
think
pulled the trigger. We
anybody
don't
at
even
Turning
know
Point
who did pull the
anybody
trigger.
at
So how could
Turning
I say
Point
that they're...
did anybody at Turning Point, in your opinion, know that Charlie Kirk was going to be murdered?
There is specifically 2 people at Turning Point USA, and I have communicated that information to Erica and Justin Strife, that I would not be surprised if they had foreknowledge of Charlie Kirk being assassinated.
But do you have any evidence
I'm
of
not
that?
going to name. I am not going to name those people, okay? Because it's not right for me to name those people until I know for a fact that they did.
Did you give the names
So
Did you give the names to Erica?
Yes.
So
I absolutely did.
You gave the names to Erica of 2 employees, current employees at Turning Point, who you believe were involved in the preparation for the murder of Charlie Kirk. Is that what you're saying?
I told them that if I were in your shoes, these would be 2 employees that I would look further into. That's
And what
I
evidence
said.
do you have that they had any prior knowledge of the murder?
Because I don't have concrete evidence is the reason why I'm not naming them. So I've been
So you've got
responsible.
no
I'm
evidence,
not saying.
but you're telling the widow that these 2 people may have been involved in the murder. You see the problem?
Well, the evidence for it is people that there was not concrete evidence. It's like you're trying to get me to say something that I never said and then asking me to defend it.
No,
I'm
I'm
not
asking
saying
what
it.
evidence
Let's
you've
actually
got.
go to. You're asking me privately. Did I communicate to them that I think you should look further? That's called an investigation, Pierce. Okay. So what you're
Well, what
doing
are
is
you
a
basing it
strategy
on?
of like if somebody dies, you're saying please you can't ask any questions about anybody unless you have concrete evidence. We're at the stage of investigation.
I'm not saying
yes,
that.
you can.
I'm
And
not
let me
saying
give
that.
people in the public the permission to do this. Follow your instinct. If you feel something is off, keep asking questions
No problem.
until you get concrete
No
evidence. And when you
problem at
have concrete evidence, you should name those people.
No
I don't
problem.
have the concrete
But
evidence.
you have named
I
other
find
people.
their inconsistencies.
Okay. But you have named other
I'm trying to
people.
answer. Here, you can't ask me questions. You can't ask me questions. Let me finish it. I have communicated to them that their inconsistencies make me uncomfortable. I have communicated to them that somebody else who is a third party gave me some information that I am not yet comfortable as I am vetting it, giving it to the public because that's the responsibility to do. These are private citizens. And that if I were in their shoes and had more access to information, I would go down that route, okay? Unless I am fully confident that they actually did have something to do, like here is the smoking gun, I'm not going to name those people.
Okay.
But the people I have named thus far are people that I believe are engaged in a cover-up. Like I said, hold me accountable for
Well,
what I
let's
have
talk
said,
about one of those
okay?
people. Let's talk about one of those people because the Turning Point producer Blake Neff wrote this in early December. Ever since Charlie's murder, Candace Owens has leveled a flood of allegations against people at Turning Point USA, people at Turning Point Action, and people who work on the show. She has made them against some of Charlie's closest friends and against some of his most dedicated employees. She suggested that Michael McCoy, Charlie's chief of staff, knew Charlie would be murdered. He was happy that he died and stayed silent because he was told he would be the next Charlie. Now, let's move then to you said in your podcast that new information was given to you in your meeting with Erica Kirk about Michael McCoy has now satisfied you. On a video on the 27th of October, you devoted a whole episode to this guy and his supposed
I never
strange
said I
behavior.
have information that satisfied me about Mike.
Okay, well, I'll ask you to clarify. Okay, well, you can clarify
Okay.
that in a moment. But let's hear what you said about Mikey McCoy before the meeting.
So we decided to slow this clip down, and we're going to watch this clip slow down so you can see that it is exactly 834 milliseconds from the time that you hear the shots. That is how long it takes for Mikey McCoy to put the phone to his ear. Now, why is that precise timing so important? Because there's no dialing. Mikey didn't have time to dial, okay? You can't dial and put your phone to your ear in 834 seconds.
Now, what was the new information you got in the meeting with Erica about Mikey McCoy?
So I'm sorry your gotcha is not going too well, but I never then said, I am now satisfied that Mikey put the phone to his ear. What I presented to the public, it was
No,
what
I
Erica
didn't say
gave to
that.
me.
Sorry, just to clarify.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, well, you did say
No,
you have
inferred on
information
your
that's satisfied.
podcast. Well, let me give you the chance to clarify. It's a very familiar story when it comes to debt. The banks win, you pay. Fees and phone calls pile up every month unless you fight back. PDS Debt has helped hundreds of thousands of people cut debt and put money back in their pockets. If you're struggling with credit cards, personal loans, and medical bills, PDS offers custom options to help you get out of debt fast. They'll go beyond the numbers to understand your unique situation and craft a personalized plan. There's no minimum credit score, and they have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't wait another month. Take back control in 30 seconds. Get your free personalized assessment and the best option for you at pds.com/peers. That's pdsdebt.com/peers. pdsdebt.com/peers. You inferred on your podcast after the meeting with Erica that you'd received new information about Mikey McCoy, which had changed your mind? Would that be the best way to categorize it, or changed
No,
some
I
of
never
your
said
mind?
that. I just presented it. Well, the only thing that I clarified on my podcast, if that's what they're getting wrong, is that some people thought that he was using a nickname that was his middle name, and actually his real name is Michael, like first name Michael, because I was like trying to find something, and I was like, oh, maybe he's actually using his middle name. So that's what I clarified on my podcast.
And you were given
Beyond
call
that,
logs, is
I
that right?
presented.
You were shown call logs? You were shown call logs?
They gave me a printout of Mikey's call logs, and I gave it to the public. I mean, they're saying this, and then the public obviously.
So do you believe Mikey McCoy had any prior knowledge of Charlie's murder?
I can't say that he had prior knowledge of the murder unless I have something concrete. I can't say anything about prior knowledge. What I can say is what happened on that day. Mikey's behavior is weird on that day. I find it weird, like I said on the podcast yesterday, that what has been communicated to the public is like he called Erica instantly. First thing he did was call Erica instantly, and that's actually the call logs.
Marshall.
Show that he didn't call Erica.
Well, what are you suggesting about
his
this
wife
guy?
instantly, and then he had 3 ways.
When you got a massive
and then showing his call log
Here's the
showed that
problem.
Blake Knapp actually
You have a
didn't
massive.
about what happened on that day.
But here's the problem, Candice. You have a massive platform. Millions and millions of people hang on your opinion. When you
I'll get you what you
devote
need.
a large part
Like
of
I
an
said,
entire
they
episode
died
to
just
the
fine.
strange behavior of Charlie Kirk's chief of staff, you are putting a target on the guy's back. You're inferring he has something to do with this, or something to do with some cover-up, or whatever it is you're inferring. You know what you're doing when you do that. When you saw Erica Kirk, did you say to her that you believe there's something suspicious about Michael McCoy? Was she able to explain to you why there isn't? Or does she share your view that he is somehow complicit in this in some way?
Well, we actually dedicated more time to speaking about his father, who I think it's strange to me that that man called himself a pastor. I communicated fully that everything about that man makes my skin crawl. I think he's a bad person. I think he's involved with bad people. And this is obviously, Mikey's a son. And, I asked a bit about Rob McCoy and Mikey McCoy's relationship. I would just like to be clear. I am not going to be emotionally conditioned to believe that asking questions when we aren't getting any answers is the crime itself. The crime was when Charlie got shot in the neck. So,
but you've already said, you've already said though, you told
the
Eric.
easiest way to remove, the easiest way, let me finish. You can't ask me questions, not let me finish.
You're contradicting what you've just said to me.
But you have to.
You said to me earlier,
what did I contradict?
You said you gave 2 names of people in the Turning Point organization that you believe are complicit in some way. You gave those names, but you wouldn't name them because it wouldn't be right to do that. But you did name this guy, Mikey McCoy, who was the chief of staff.
Because his actions are strange. You're 2 different things. Really, Pierce, I think you're having trouble holding on to 2 buckets of thought here, okay? You said, in regards to someone that was complicit in murder, that is a very serious allegation. I gave them names of people that would not surprise me if they did have foreknowledge of Charlie Kirk's murder. You are now shifting gears and you're asking me about Mikey McCoy and why I am raising red flags about his behavior on that day. Because I believe his behavior on that day was weird. I think it's painfully obvious that his behavior was weird. I don't know people that don't duck when a shot comes down.
Complicit?
So I'm sorry that I have eyes, and I am agreeing with the public that Mikey McCoy's behavior was weird on that day. Okay, these are 2 different things. Now, if I'm going to make an assertion that somebody had something to do with planning this murder, I better be damn sure. And I need if I said that on my podcast, right? That's all I'm saying. I had never made that claim that Mikey McCoy planned Charlie Kirk's assassination.
No, I think like a lot of the claims you're making, it's difficult to work out what you're actually claiming. You're throwing a lot of mud in the air, including people's names, which immediately then has millions of people chasing after these guys on social media and thinking...
I'm sorry they get caught lying. Like, I'm sorry, what is this? This is like, the public is actually being abused, okay? Let's stop pretending that the victim
Are they, or do you
is
just
Rob
want them to think
McCoy.
they are?
No, the public is being abused because you're basically saying, stop noticing that people at Turning Point USA are lying.
No, I'm not.
How dare Candace and the public know? Yes, you are.
No.
How dare Candace?
But when there's an
doing?
emphatic repudiation of what you're saying...
If Mikey lies, and Rob McCoy lies, and Blake Knapp lies, and yes, all of these people have lied on record after the assassination. And the public goes, hey, that's kind of a weird lie. You're like, how dare you put a target on their back by noticing that they're lying? I mean, what weird psychological operation is this?
Do you believe?
Don't lie.
Okay, but do you
Don't
believe?
lie.
Do you believe Erica Kirk has been lying about it?
No, I have been explicit on my show when people were saying, why aren't you attacking Erica Kirk? I said, because Erica Kirk has not lied. If to the extent that she lies, I will call it out. And that is why I did call out when she lied, okay? When she said Charlie Kirk never received any text messages the night before saying that he was worried about that he was gonna get murdered tomorrow. I instantly said, well, here we have it. That's a lie. He definitively did send out text messages to both Dan Flood and Andrew Kolba. And when we met in person, she clarified that, okay, yes, that's real. And we didn't know until you said it because he was using a different app and she was checking his iMessages. So to me, if you lie, you're going to make an enemy of me. Just don't lie. How about that basic requirement to say to people, don't lie about what happened on that day. Don't lie about what you did on that day, because that's the first clue to investigators that that person should be looked at further.
All
Again,
right. Well,
this is common sense.
Okay, let's move to something else Blake Neff said. He said Candace has made other stranger allegations involving French paratroopers in maroon shirts, Egyptian Air Force planes flying out of Provo, Utah, potential underground assassins traveling through unseen tunnels. At one point in November, she started wildly throwing suspicion on members of Utah Valley soccer team wearing hoodies. I could go on. There's always something new coming up. None of it ever pans out because from the start, there's been nothing there. What do you say to that?
He's lying, and that's the reason why Blake Neff is a suspicious character. I mean, him saying that I pointed to a soccer UVU person is complete fiction. I never had discussed that person on my show. Somebody was asking for a clearer photo of the person on X, and I shared it. No suspicion. Never said this person had anything to do with anything. I never covered him as a suspect on my show of anything at all. Didn't ask for more information on this person. That kid instantly responded and said, oh, those are our school colors, and that was it. And Turning Point tried to turn it into a thing. Why are you doing that? Regarding the Egyptian planes, that's a fact. Why are you saying she said that there was a military Egyptian plane on the ground that day? There was. In fact, there were two. So why are you pretending that that's like a weird thing to notice? And that is why people have been flagged about these planes. To his other,
let me ask you about the planes.
I'm never allowed to answer a single question that you say in entirety before you move on to the next question.
You can't just keep talking ad infinitum. I'm allowed to ask you another question.
No, it's called answering. You just read an entire statement of multiple points of Blake's.
It's called filibustering.
I got to the second point, and you're like, let me ask you a question.
No, I want to ask you. No,
Piers, you already asked me a question. I'm trying to answer the question that you asked.
No, I want to ask you a follow-up specifically about the Egyptian planes, given you've now addressed it. Which is, where is the evidence that any of these Egyptian planes were tracking Erica
data out of the main line?
I am going to be publishing the full document because there's not even just 2 planes, there's actually 4 planes that have been flying in, and I should be more thorough because I realize that the spreadsheet I posted people... Not that, let me... Can I just please, without you cutting me off, like answer one thing? Okay, thank you. These Egyptian planes, more broadly speaking, now that we have gone deeper onto the planes recognizing that the reaction time is not normal, but we can say that the Egyptian planes are tied to Israel. They've been flying in and out of Israel with their transponder off for years. But regarding the Turning Point USA picture, more broadly speaking, Turning Point USA space, okay? Obviously, Erica has been involved in a lot of the church stuff. It's not specifically tracking just Erica. It's Turning Point faith events. Broadly speaking, I gave that information as well. I told Justice Wright and Erica, I'm happy to give you this like color-coded spreadsheet. There's no question there's a correlation here between Turning Point USA faith in particular, which, by the way, from the beginning of this, I've said something is wrong with this faith contingent, especially because Rob McCoy for a while was heading up that department, and he makes my skin crawl. And so, yeah, I have the evidence for that. And we're going to actually publish it on our website. So there can be no question, which I should have done from the very beginning.
But let me ask you.
Showing that these planes were tracking Charlie. At various times there where Erica is, various times there where Rob McCoy is. But the consistent thread here is faith events, like Kingdom to the Capitol tour.
Assuming you're right, and I don't know, but I know Erica Kirkman asked about this, said on CBS, if you want to go through my flight log, go right ahead, it's very boring. You, Candace, say I was here on this date, I have a photo on my phone to prove I was actually in hospital having contractions. So that's one thing she's directly repudiated. But let's assume for a moment you're right, and that all these Egyptian planes are flying around tracking Charlie Kirk, Turning Point, Faith, and Erica Kirk. Why? What is your theory?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
I don't
what's
know.
your theory
I don't
then?
know.
You must have an
My
idea what
theory
they...
is that we should investigate everything strange that happened on that day so we can figure out what happened.
But are you
It's literally
suggesting
just called an
that... Are you
investigation. Why
suggesting
is everybody
Egypt...
why are we pretending that we don't know why we ask questions? Like, why? Like, you're a journalist.
But you
know
have a
what
theory.
this is. You're like, what's going on?
What's your
going on? Why do
theory?
you want to know why these planes were tracking Charlie? Well, my theory is that we are being sold absolute Fed slop. The media is doing their Operation Mockingbird Part 2 scenario by telling us, well, unless you absolutely have a conclusion, you can't even ask the question. Yes, we very well
But it
damn
may
can.
be, Candace.
Keep asking consistent questions until we get a clarified explanation for what happened on that day. And right now, we have nothing, okay? And that is the reason why people are watching my show, because I'm the only one not treating them like they're absolute idiots. Who don't have tools, who believe in magic bully theory, and who understand that Egyptian planes should not have been tracking Charlie even 3 times this year would be an anomaly, okay? They've been tracking him. We don't know where it's going to end, but we are going to keep asking questions until we get clear answers.
Candace, it may be that the person in the media spewing bullshit to the public is you.
No, nice try. It's not. It's
Could
you
be.
by saying, why are you asking
Could be.
questions? Don't you worry about Mikey's feelings? Everyone knows what this is. And like I said, because we have the example, the concrete example of after JFK's assassination, the media members quite literally being put on the payroll of the CIA, we have a historical example that we can look at and go, we're not doing that again. Doesn't matter how many times you keep telling the public that I'm spewing bullshit, it is only because there has not been anything that has come out of this investigation that makes any sense that the public is not listening to, I'm sorry to say this, people like you. And what I love about you and I sitting down is that this exact same time last year, you were doing the same weird questioning and making all these things when I said that they were committing a Holocaust against the Gazans, and then you changed your mind.
Actually, this time...
I'll see you next year when you change your mind again, and we get more information about what happened, and you realize that the difference between me and you is that I have the courage to take the risks and ask the questions first, okay, before it's popular. You wait until it becomes popular, and then you change your mind.
You may remember that one of your courageous moves was to repeatedly tell the world that Brigitte Macron is a man. As you now know,
and she is.
As you now know, we had a $300,000 bet to charity about this because she's a woman.
Yes.
It's my view.
She's not a woman.
Well, we're going to find out is the point, because it's going to court, they're suing you, and when she proves, as she will, that she's a woman, because it's very easy to prove, and you lose that case, then
so
they
easy
kind of,
that she refuses to do it for years.
But then it will become more obvious to people that, look, I think you're a brilliant operator at what you do. That's, you know, I like you personally, you know that, right? None of this is personal for me about you at all. I just have watched him last year from Brigitte Macron now into the Charlie Kirk story. I think you've developed a modus operandi, which, to put it politely, is you flying what we would call in the world of journalism kites, and just seeing what can cause the most merry hell, therefore get you the biggest audience, therefore make you the most amount of money. And people have, as you know, you've been widely attacked now by a lot of people who say that you're just a ghoul, a vulture. You're doing this deliberately. You're inventing things, or just flying ludicrous conspiracy theories to make money. Now, again, Candace, I don't know that you are, but I do know.
Celebrity.
Can you not interrupt me? Oh, your rule.
I do think it's pretty rich. It's pretty rich coming from you, is all I'm gonna say. That's me putting it very nicely, given your background, your career, your celebrity involvement, the Princess Diana. Wrong messenger is what I'll say right off the top, okay? Wrong messenger. What you are mistaking, or I guess we're not even mistaking, because you know what this is. You're talking about power versus the people. And you are always on the side of power first. You're on the side of the Israelis. It's so horrible. And, I'm gonna pretend I don't see tens of thousands of Gazans dying.
I've actually been very critical of the Israelis, as you know, in the last year.
Everybody
I've actually been very critical of the Israeli government.
Penis, okay? It's very easy to present photos of 30 years of your life. Brigitte keeps teasing, Brigitte, we're going to find out for a blood test. We asked you for some photos and you refused to do it.
Find out,
and everybody knows that Charlie Kirk was not shot by Tyler Robinson on a rooftop. I am sorry that in this day and age, there seems to be such a shortage of testosterone that a woman has to be the person that states the obvious, right? I invite you to join me, and I know that you will by the end of next year, because they're not going to get away with what they did to my friend Charlie Kirk, and I am not going to change my mind, least of all when I am being called names by someone who has quite a year, background and experience in doing things because it's lucrative and not always because it's sensitive.
Sure,
It's always lovely.
You can call me a hypocrite as much as you want. I don't care. It's fine. I'm just simply saying what other people have been saying about you. I didn't say I felt that.
Thank you.
I said
I'll let you know what people are saying about you too. I'll keep you posted
read
on
it
people
all,
are saying
like
about
you.
you.
I read it all the time. But I would say that, like I said at the start of this interview, I don't know whether any of the things you're saying are true or not. I just do know you're saying a huge amount of stuff. It's making you very wealthy. You're getting millions and millions of people coming in, which by the way,
what is this idea that's making me very wealthy?
Which
Can
is
you
fine.
actually explain that slowly
Yes,
for
I'm going to
people?
explain it to you slowly because I had a huge run-in, for example.
This is just like a talking point.
No, I'm going to explain exactly what I mean. When Sandy Hook happened and Alex Jones began weaponizing the Sandy Hook tragedy and weaponizing the grief of the poor parents who'd lost their children, and I began to attack him in public, and then eventually there was a court case and it turned out he'd been spewing deliberate lies, and that every time he spewed them they found he made hundreds of thousands if not millions of dollars in the immediate aftermath of spewing the repeated lies that it was all staged and the families were actors and so on, which he knew to be lies, and he made himself extremely rich and ended up with $1 billion defamation finding against him because he'd been deliberately weaponizing people's grief. And the charge,
Yeah, I'm asking you to explain the
I'm
actual
explaining
financial
to you
metrics.
the,
How was he making
I'm
money?
explaining to you the analogy, which is there are, as you know, right now, a lot of people, Tim Pool to the New York Post to others, who've come out very stridently in the last week, alone the last week, and say that's exactly what you've been doing with Erica Kirk.
Yeah, but you haven't answered the question. So this is just made up. As I said, this is a soft bluff. You're suggesting that I'm making money. Did I sign a new advertiser? Are we reading more ads? Do we put this somewhere else? Do we
Well,
sign
the more
a book
views
deal?
you get on YouTube,
so
the more money
did
you
I
make.
sell a T-shirt? Okay, but like, come on, Piers. Money on YouTube? Are you kidding me? I was already in a top 10 podcast globally before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And if you think that I would want my friend to be assassinated so I could go from being in the top 5 to being #1, you're out of your mind.
No,
Okay,
I'm telling you,
it's
I'm
so
telling you,
disrespectful.
I'm telling you.
But like the point is that everyone who is saying that I'm making more money cannot say how I'm making more money because it's just not true. Okay, so you're like, oh, she got a bump in viewership talking
Well,
about
are your
Charlie, as
YouTube
did
numbers
everyone in the world because it was a public assassination. And then it went up in the weeks following and it went back to normal.
Candice, are your YouTube numbers up since you've been doing the Charlie Kirk investigations?
What I am saying to you is that this is the exact same argument you guys had about Brigitte. So it can't, and then the same exact
but I
same
think you were
argument
lying about Brigitte.
About
You know
about
that.
the Blake Lively thing. Okay, but what about the Blake Lively thing? So you can't keep saying that, oh, she's always in the top 10 because she's talking about something. Or this is my podcast and it's me. It's just me. People enjoy my podcast because I don't treat them like they're idiots. I don't treat them like they should accept that Brigitte Macron just can't present one photo of herself raising her kids across 30 years. It's just too much to
Brigitte
ask.
Macron
Oh my gosh,
is
it's
going to prove-
ridiculous. How dare you? It's such an
Brigitte
intrusion of
Macron-
privacy. She'd rather file a transatlantic lawsuit
Candice.
than to just produce photos and put all of this to bed.
Candice, Brigitte
That's the
Macron-
difference between you and I. So now there's this lie, this repeat lie from Kamala Chronicles, which we did, looking into Kamala's background because it was relevant to the election cycle. Then we did the Blake Lively lawsuit, and they said, oh, she's trying to change her brand. That's the only reason her numbers are up. Then we went to Brigitte, which I lost, by the way. I had to get a whole career change when I first covered that story. So joke's on me if I'm doing this to make money, but I was willing to be fired to tell the truth. And then it's all about Brigitte. And now we've arrived at Charlie Kirk. I feel like there's something about that actually is just people not being willing to admit that what people appreciate about me and why they keep coming back is that I'm willing to take risks to tell the truth.
No, I think so.
That's
Don't get me
consistency.
wrong. I
was already sold out on ads
I think
at the end of the year because our podcast was successful.
Yeah,
I have not
Candice,
sold a T-shirt,
Candice,
nothing with his name on it. It's
Candice,
just me.
Candice, the reason I told the Alex Jones story is he did incredibly well out of Sandy Hook with his investigations. But as was established in the court case against him, brought by the families eventually, and I think we're going to see the same thing with Brigitte Macron, is that he was weaponizing deliberate lies for money. And I think you
Brigitte
did that.
Macron has a penis. I really want you to know
Brigitte Macron
that.
does
Here,
not
please
have a
report it.
penis.
Brigitte Macron has a
No,
penis.
she doesn't.
I'm sorry.
She had 3 children.
Did she get it removed?
She had 3
Did you get
children.
It removed? Yeah, you can have adoptive children. You can call somebody, but Brigitte Macron was born a dude named Jean-Michel Trogneau.
Well-
And I just feel, I want you to know that. I want you to know that Brigitte Macron probably stands peeing up. probably
Okay.
he's standing
Well,
up, is what I want to know.
the beauty is we have a big
Yeah,
bet.
I think
we
Brigitte
have a big
stands.
bet, and we're going to find out because it's going to court. And you know, you will lose that court case. I think you know you will.
I am not going to lose a court case because Brigitte is presenting evidence that Brigitte was born a woman, because that's never even been offered. That's just their PR coming out and saying these things. Nobody believes that Brigitte Macron is just unable to present any pictures. Nobody's asking for blood.
All right,
No,
well, let's wait for the court case. Let's wait for the court case.
Okay, great.
Now, look,
and you will be proven wrong again unless
the
there's
fallout,
just federal corruption.
Okay, in the fallout from your encounter with Erica Kerr, Nick Fuentes said Candace Owens is done.
Out.
What a letdown.
Oh, LOL.
Tim Pool has called you evil. He says you're motivated by the fact you were secretly in love with Charlie Kirk. Is that true?
This is such ridiculous. Like, this is what I mean when I say, like, it's like LOL Fed slop. Oh, did Tim Pool say that I was secretly in love with him? It's so, come on, there's no substance to this. This is so ridiculous. It's by any means necessary, come out and attack Candace. The New York Post did an article that it was honestly amazing fan fiction. They even said that I used to work at Daily Wire. I throw my keys at my staff, and my staff hated me. I did not drive to work a single day when I was at the Daily Wire. They had a driver take me there. So we're just now in this weird spot where they're just making things up every single day. They said that my husband had a Qatari passport, and I just ignore it, and I keep investigating because I know what it's meant to do. It's meant to distract me. I'm very aware of what these people are trying to do, and it's not working. Great. So I don't really feel moved by the rantings of Nick Fuentes and Tim Pool.
All right. Which of your theories when you were with Erica did she think was convincing?
We didn't. What do you mean by that?
Well, did she think that Israel was involved? Did she think that there were French paratroopers involved? Did she think the Egyptian planes were complicit? Did she believe that Turning Point employees were involved? Which of the many theories
I wasn't. I guess.
Did she think is actually got any merit?
Look in your eyes. I think you're characterizing it like I sat down and tried to convince her of my theories. That wasn't the nature of the meeting that we had. I shared information with her and told her, you know, what the feds were ignoring, and these are the things I'm looking into. Obviously explained to her about the Egyptian planes and this bizarre connection to, you know, Turning Point faith events and tours. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of like sharing the information with her. So there was nothing that...
But again, here's my problem, Candace, with the whole thing. Everything is like, you're just asking questions, you're sharing information, you're doing this. But when I actually ask you to be specific about, well, who do you think did what, that's where it all hits a shuddering halt. You don't know, do you? You don't actually know anything. Of
course, if I actually knew who shot Charlie Kirk, I would be instantly publicizing it. I'd say, I figured it out. That's not how an investigation works. It just doesn't work like that, okay? You have to follow the clues until you arrive at a conclusion. Of course, I cannot confidently state that it was, you know, John Smith who shot Charlie Kirk from the left side. I don't know that yet. I don't know that information yet. And when I do know it, I will publicize it without question. I just am pointing out the inconsistencies, the lies. He was not shot with 30-06 and did not have a Man of Steel neck. And that's completely made up. Well, actually, that's going to be my show today. I do now factually know that Man of Steel thing was made up, and that never came from the surgeon's mouth. So again, we have another lie. We have another lie coming out of Turning Point USA. Put in quotation marks that lie, that it was a direct quote from the surgeon. That was made up. So yeah, I'm going to keep track of all of these lies, deliver them to the public, and allow them to surmise. I'm going to allow them to think critically while it's still legal. I know it's barely legal in the UK, and it's becoming increasingly less legal here in the United States, so I'm going to use every opportunity to ask every question.
Okay, but pre the meeting with Erica, you repeatedly questioned why we weren't being told where Charlie Kirk is buried, or even if he has been buried yet. Did you get those answers?
One can be obtained from Lusum Hagar.
You have the wrong commentator who questioned that. I think that was Milo Yiannopoulos.
With these three
you've never questioned, you've never asked where Charlie's buried?
We can initiate Dagger.
Nope, I just communicated to the people that he had a Catholic church, because people were saying I was lying about him going to a Catholic church, which was another random attack that I had to ignore. So I never said that people don't know where Charlie Kirk's buried. That's just the wrong commentary, wrong commentator.
Do you know where he's been buried?
I actually genuinely never got to that question with Erica, but I do know where he's... I think the implication that Milo made, again, you'd have to ask him, was that he's not buried. I do know where there is a spot for him to be buried or to be held in a mausoleum. But I never, that's just, you have the wrong person on that.
Erica was emphatic in the CBS thing that she wanted you to stop with the conspiracy theories, or maybe you've got it all right and all of this stuff is true and it's all involving the Israelis and Egypt and Turning Point and mass conspiracy with this young kid Tyler Robinson brought in, and they're all involved in this dramatic murder of Charlie Kirk. Maybe let's just assume for a moment you're 100% right. She did tell you publicly before you met to stop. What's clear is that you're not going to stop. So is she okay with you now continuing to talk about your theories, or does she still want you to stop?
Well, she didn't ask me to stop. If that's the question that you're asking, is throughout that meeting, did she say,
did publicly, obviously. So your response to that is what?
I'm telling you that then we had a conversation, and I was not asked throughout that conversation to stop. And to the contrary, I shared information that I had, and I got information from them.
Right.
That helps.
So you will carry on.
Focus.
You will carry on.
Yes.
With the theories.
Yes. Until I feel confident of who killed Charlie Kirk, I will not stop investigating this.
And Erica is okay with you doing that?
I don't know how many other ways to answer your question other than saying she did not ask me or request for me to stop in person. And when we spoke about that moment, she felt that Barry Weiss was being Barry Weiss.
And she made no request of you whatsoever, Erica Kirk, in 4.5 hours?
Request in what sense?
About how she would like you to conduct yourself about the murder of her husband going forward?
No.
Nothing at all?
No, she didn't make a request for me to conduct myself in any way.
And she expressed no concern about any of the
I
theories that you've been
I think she probably knows me through the lens of her husband, so I don't know if that would be a thing that she would have done. But no, she did not ask me to conduct myself in any way. That seems to just be coming from the media, how I should conduct myself.
Am I right in thinking that your mind has taken you to a place where you genuinely believe that Israel, Egypt, Turning Point employees, and Tyler Robinson, and potentially others, but they were all involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk?
Well, to be fair, I think we're all putting Egypt in parentheses because we kind of don't think that we have exactly a strong Egyptian lobby here in the United States, and there is a lot of historical precedent with Israel kind of using Egyptian planes or using Egyptian narrative when they want to accomplish things. So, I mean, I just pointed out this is an Egyptian plane, but Israel, I got tons of questions about. Yeah, I think Israel is a very good place to start when Bibi Netanyahu is just denying and just way too involved in the beginning. That was weird. Everyone felt it was weird, and they were right to feel that it was weird. And when Bibi admits that he called him two weeks before and invited him to Israel, like, what's that about? People are being, and also because it just happens to be that from the very beginning, Zionists don't want us investigating the Charlie Kirk assassination. So it's just, I would say, the usual suspects. You are correct that I have and sent information, and it has not been denied by the Élysée Palace, the White House, or the Pentagon, that the French Foreign Legion was on the ground that day. Again, something that I flagged to Turning Point USA, Justin Strife, that for whatever reason, the feds don't want this information, which is a bit strange, or don't seem to be interested, or maybe they're pretending they're investigating it. So we add the French Foreign Legion
to the list as well.
Yeah, but the French Foreign Legion is like a bandit of, I mean, what I've learned about them now is it's like it's a bunch of different countries. It's not just French people. And yeah, that all sounds about right to me. Is there anything else I can answer?
I think we've probably covered it. It's a lot of people involved in this murder. And my guess, Candice, for what it's worth, is it'll turn out none of that is true. And that it was Tyler Robinson who, for his own politically motivated reasons, hence brandishing the bullet casings with words like anti-fascist slogans and so on, that's why he did it. He believed that he'd been led to believe Charlie Kirk was a fascist, so he had to kill him. Which is a different issue about why I feel so strongly that these words shouldn't be bandied about, because in deranged young minds, it can have that effect on them. We see it time and again. But look, if it turns out that you're right, and that Charlie Kirk was murdered by a group of people, including the French Foreign Legion, Egypt, Israel, Turning Point, his own employees, and they were all in on this, to murder Charlie Kirk, you will be proven 100% right. And I will be the first to salute your brilliant investigative journalism. But in return, if it turns out you're completely wrong, then I would expect you to come back on Uncensored.
It's a
and
repowering
admit you were
station.
completely wrong. Is that a fair deal?
I was hoping that by the time we did this, I'd be able to do that because they showed me something that was so compelling. That didn't happen. So, yeah.
Lily.
Deal is on, as always.
has a
Between you and
bad
I, the
vibe
deal is
to
on.
Like Mom would
I'll
have
add it to
said.
the list. Candice, I want to wish you a
Rangers
Merry Christmas. We're both Christians. We have that in common. And it's always good to have you on Uncensored. I'll say this about you. I say this to everyone. You come and do these things. You don't duck them. You don't shirk them. You don't hide away. You stand behind what you say. My only question for you, it's not for you, it's about you, is when people say to me, do you think she believes this stuff? I don't know. I don't know if you do or not. I know that Alex Jones didn't.
It's just so fun being the lone person to be attacked every second and every minute of every day that I was just like, you know what, this is so fun for me. I love it. I love the threats of losing your job and people going after your sponsors and having to worry about your security. It's so fun. You know, it would be so easy. I would be a billionaire. I'd be on the cover of Vogue magazine if I would just say the thing. If I would just be a federal operative and tell people to trans their kids and tell them like Brigitte's like a really beautiful woman and tell them that Charlie Kirk was shot by one person on a rooftop with impeccable luck who scaled the rooftop like Spider-Man. That's the easier route in life. Unfortunately, spiritually, I can't do it. I'm just my granddad's granddaughter and he couldn't lie. I can't lie. And I don't want my kids to grow up in a world where a bunch of freaks and pedophiles are in power, which is in the circumstance that we live in today. We cannot live in a world where Jeffrey Epstein is being protected by the government and Charlie Kirk is being publicly assassinated. I can't do it. I won't do it. And let the chips fall where they may.
Candice Owens, always good to have you on Uncensored. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
Piers Morgan Uncensored is proudly independent. The only boss around here is me. If you enjoy our show, we ask for only one simple thing. Hit subscribe on YouTube and follow Piers Morgan Uncensored on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in return, we will continue our mission to inform, irritate and entertain. And we'll do it all for free. Independent, uncensored media has never been more critical, and we couldn't do it without you.
those panels good.
That's what I love to hear. Let's see them try to run their murder machines now.
ऑलराइट गाइस, क्या कपिल शर्मा मोदी जी को ट्रोल कर रहा है? नो सीरियसली। और अगर नहीं तो ये किस राजा की बात हो रही? कुछ सुन लो आप।
एजुकेशन का कोई कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं रहेगा।
एंड नाउ द नेशन वांट्स टू नो ये किस राजा की बात हो रही है जो पढ़ा लिखा नहीं है। ये मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं, ये विपक्ष वाले आरोप लगा रहे हैं कि कपिल शर्मा मोदी जी को ट्रोल कर रहा है, क्योंकि सिचुएशन देश की बड़ी खराब चल रही है। सच्ची? अरे मुच्ची, अरे अभी तक हम गलत समझ रहे थे। ये ज्ञानेश नहीं है, ये ज्ञानोस है, थैनोस के छोटे भाई। क्यों? नहीं, रीजन है। अरे 3.25 करोड़ वोटर्स कैसे सारी बात करेंगे। और आज इस केकड़े के बारे में बात करेंगे। आज तो इसका डांस है, केकड़े का कैबरे। सब्सक्राइब कर दो। लोग क्या क्या बोल रहे हैं।
मुझे वायरस कहा।
अरे और भी बहुत कुछ कह रहे हैं। मोदी जी, मुझे तो फिक्र हो रही है, ये जो कैरेक्टर प्ले कर रहा है ना, प्लीज डोंट कनेक्ट द डॉट्स। ये एक अनपढ़ राजा का कैरेक्टर प्ले कर रहा है, शायद जो चौथी फेल है, शायद। और इसी शो में ये बात करेगा एक टैक्सेशन के बारे में, यानी हमारी भाषा में मार्जिन। यानपुर राजा बोलता है टैक्स सिर्फ 10%, लोग खुश हो जाते सिर्फ 10%। फिर वो अपनी बात बताता है और हमको कुछ याद आता है
90% हमारा।
नो, मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं, लोग बात कर रहे हैं क्योंकि ऐसा कैरेक्टर क्यों बनाया, क्योंकि तुलसी जी जनता सच में परेशान है, शो डूब रहा होगा, नेटफ्लिक्स वालों ने कहा कुछ नया ह्यूमर लेके आओ, ये लाए होंगे और इसलिए चल रहा है। अब ये जो टैक्स वाला जोक आपको और ज्यादा समझ में आ जाएगा जब पूछा जाएगा कि टैक्स कौन वसूलेगा।
टैक्स वसूली करने के लिए हम लोग महिलाओं को रखेंगे।
अरे ये क्या कह दिया, आप तो मुझे गुस्से में बोलना पड़ेगा।
क्या
मार्जिन छोड़े, लगता है कपिल शर्मा का कुछ करना पड़ेगा।
बहुत पैसा है इसके बाद निकाला भाई।
समझ रहा हूँ, ऐसा नहीं है, बहुत सोची समझी स्ट्रेटेजी है यानपुर राजा के पीछे नेटफ्लिक्स वालों की, आप समझ रहे हो? समझ रहे हैं। ये रिलीजन पर भी बात करता है और उसके बाद साथ ही साथ एजुकेशन का भी मजाक उड़ाता है, कहता है एजुकेशन फ्री कंट्री कर देगा। और प्लीज डोंट कनेक्ट द डॉट्स, लोग ऐसी बातें कर रहे हैं। दोस्तों ये कैसी बातें हो रही है?
समझने वाले को इशारा कॉपी,
क्योंकि जनता को अब सब समझ में आ रहा है, जनता साफ समझ रही है। Now let's move on to a serious topic. And दीपू चंद्र दास के साथ बांग्लादेश में जो ट्रेजेडी हुई है उस पर कितनी पॉलिटिक्स हो रही है, यहाँ आके कमेंट करते हैं। तुम बोलते नहीं हो, तुम बोलते नहीं, यार हम तो बोल रहे हैं, तुम्हारे पापा नहीं बोल रहे, उनका क्या? और आपको मालूम है उसको कितना गंदा पॉलिटिकल टर्न दिया जा रहा है? ये समोसा मैन
जब एक दलित हिंदू लड़के को बांग्लादेश में उनके प्रिय देश में जला दिया जाता है, तब ये कांग्रेसी, तब ये पवन खेड़ा टाइप के लोग, तब ये विरोधी लोग कहाँ?
अरे तब मोदी जी गृह मंत्री सब कहाँ थे? समोसा मैन, उनसे तो पूछ लो, शायद विपक्ष वालों ने तो बोला भी है, उन्होंने तो चू तक नहीं की।
बांग्लादेश को नहीं बनने देंगे उस बंगाल को, इतना याद रखिएगा।
तो ये अब चुनाव में वोट चाहिए,
अब कलकत्ता हम लोग जीते।
क्या हो गया है? मेरा तो खून खोलता था। हर बार मैं सोचता हूँ कि समोसा तेल में इतना तो नहीं गिरेगा, पर और गिर जाता है और हर बार बहुत दुख होता है। ये याद है,
स्वदेशी पहनेंगे, देश का पैसा देश में रहेगा।
ये बात अलग है कि उस वक्त समोसा खुद एक विदेशी घड़ी पहन के बोल रहे थे हाथ उठाया हुआ
स्वदेशी पहनेंगे,
और इनकी पार्टी के लोग इनको ट्रोल कर रहे हैं
कि रवि किशन स्वदेशी की बात करें और घड़ी विदेशी पहने।
अरे समोसा मैन, जनता को मूर्ख समझना बंद करना। अब तो कॉमेडी शोज में भी तुम्हारी फजीयत हो रही है।
100 नागरिक रहेंगे हमारे देश में, हाँ, वो भी अलग अलग धर्म।
ये देखो, ये क्या समझदार काफी समोसा मैन।
एक ही धर्म के लोग इकट्ठा हो जाए, राजा को पीट सकते हैं।
और हिंदू कर रहे हो, वहाँ के हिंदुओं से पहले यहाँ के हिंदुओं को बचाओ, यहाँ भी लिंचिंग हुई है, और हर धर्म के व्यक्ति को बचाओ। क्या हो गया है यार? सच तो ये कि ना उन्हें वहाँ के हिंदुओं की पढ़ी है, ना यहाँ के हिंदुओं की पढ़ी है, ना किसी की पढ़ी, उन्हें पढ़ी है बस केस करो कौन मत करना, केस हो जाएगा।
ये डर अच्छा
एक चू नहीं निकली इनकी, और महिलाओं पे इतना अत्याचार हो रहा है। कुलदीप सिंह सेंगर बाहर आ गया है, अंकिता भंडारी के लोग आवाज उठा रहे हैं, सवाल पूछने लोग स्मृति ईरानी के पास।
अंकिता भंडारी के बारे में क्या कहेंगे? मैडम अंकिता भंडारी के बारे में क्या कहेंगे?
तुलसी एकदम चुप है यार, कैसे चिल्लाया जाता था पार्लियामेंट में, माफी मांगो,
माफी मांगो।
अब आप माफी भी मांगोगी तो कोई माफ नहीं करेगा। और ये सारी आंसर रूबिका है अरे है क्या कर रही है? उन्नाव पे आवाज उठा, अंकिता भंडारी पे आवाज उठा, एक भी फीमेल एंकर बात नहीं कर रही, दिखड़ा तो खामोश। और देखो पंचमी मुद्दे पर अंजना जी ने क्या घुमाया है।
शहरों की बात की जाए, कोलकाता हो, कोई शहर हो,
कोई शहर हो, कोई शहर हो 10 सिटीज जिनमें सबसे ज्यादा पोजीशन है वो है बीजेपी। इसलिए तो कलकत्ता की याद आ रही है मैडम, क्योंकि वहाँ बीजेपी का रूल नहीं है।
शहरों की बात की जाए, कोलकाता हो, कोई शहर हो,
पूरे देश की 10 पॉलिटेड सिटीज है ये, लेकिन नहीं, कोलकाता जिताना है मोदी जी को। थकती नहीं हो? थक तो एनडीटीवी नहीं रहा है, रिपब्लिक एनडीटीवी बन रहा है, और एनडीटीवी रिपब्लिक बन रहा है, शायद सस्ता वाला। एंकर तो वही है, पर आप क्या क्या करना क्या चाह रहे भाई?
आइसस पर ट्रंप का मैरी क्रिसमस अटैक।
क्रिसमस वाला अटैक, हमें क्या ट्रंप केक फेंक के मारेगा? कुछ भी कर देते हैं ये लोग।
ट्रंप ने
जिनको मारा है उन्हें भी मैरी क्रिसमस कहा है। अबे अपने देश में सरकार ने जो महंगाई फेंक के मारी है मेरे मुंह पे, उस पर बात कर ले। पोल्यूशन फेंक के मारा है, उस पर बात कर। मतलब क्या हवस है यार पैसा कमाना। ठीक। और कल से लेके अब तक लोग इस केकड़ा कवि को ट्रोल कर रहे हैं। मतलब केकड़ा कवि से ये केकड़ा डांसर बन गया है ट्रोलिंग की दुनिया में। देखो, आई एम अ केकड़ा डांसर। मतलब विश्वास के नाम पे पूरा अविश्वास प्रस्ताव आ गया। क्या जरूरत है? क्यों भाई, क्यों कर रहा है इतना?
और ये लोग तो इतने तेज है, उन्होंने कांग्रेस कार्यालय के बाहर उनका एक पुरखा बिठा रखा था सरदार पटेल, उसे उठा लाए।
देख थोड़े समझ खुद हंसते क्या है कि केकड़े की वाइफ ऐसा ही धरती में जो लीक हुआ है उसमें फंसी हुई, इसलिए इतना चल रहा है। अच्छा या
मुझे लगता है कि महाराज जी का शासन है, सम्मान से बुला रहे हैं, चले जाओ, वरना सम्मान से भी बुला ही सकते हैं।
पर आप कुछ भी कहो, बड़ा कटीला डांसर है केकड़ा। नाउ दिस अ बिग स्टोरी गाइस। हमेशा बोलते हैं लोग कि क्या होगा देश का, क्या होगा देश के लोगों, क्या होगा, क्या चल रहा है। ऑलवेज प्रोटेक्ट योर वोटिंग राइट। अपने मत के अधिकार को मत खोने दीजिए, बस यही आप। 3.25 करोड़, लगभग 3 करोड़ वोट पड़ गए। 3 करोड़ वोट गायब। देखो जो हो रहा है वो हो रहा है, लेकिन एक बात याद रखिएगा, अपने मत अधिकार को जाने मत दे, वही एक होप है। और मेरी इस बात को मत भूलना, और इस बात को भी मत भूलना। क्या ये कौन है अनपढ़ राजा? कौन है?
समझने वाले को इशारा कॉपी।
अरे कॉफी चाय छोड़ छोड़े, सितारा आप कपिल शर्मा को नहीं छोड़ेगा।
महंगी गाड़ियां भी इसके पास सिखाना भाई।
फिलहाल आप हमें मत छोड़ना, वैसे भी 26 में
दुनिया खत्म है।
रविद्रिधा सिंह प्लीज।
मैंने टच किया।
अमेरिका का प्रधानमंत्री बार बार मोदी जी को बुलाता है, आओ मेरे साथ संबंध बनाओ।
तुम तो बिना पैंट के बैठते हो।
मार्जिन
you, but this girl needs some shut-eye. Initiate manual repairs. I'm checking into the clinic. Wait for me. I'm back, Walker, and feeling good.
Nice one. This shit's gotta be nipped in the bud. These things end up in somebody else's sewers down the line.
Regenerating. Systems fully restored.
One of them bandit dens again.